of Allah, I'm Aubrey Muhammad. I pray that everyone is well. Hempstead family and believers, welcome to my Facebook Live. The oligarch plan to convert racially devitalized Hempstead into an exclusionary yuppie city. That's a college city. Those plans are on the way. I hope your Sunday was good. It's a little chilly, cloudy. Give a few minutes for everybody to come in. First, let me check the audio. Make sure everything is coming up here. Does that sound good? Okay, how's the sound? There we go. Okay, that's good. Be right on board. Smooth sailing. Everybody, a few minutes to come in. Any recaps? I can't even think of any. Well, it actually was a recap. Last week, since the last time I spoke, a major event happened in the village board meeting Tuesday. I'm going to be going into that a little. That was sad. It was pathetic. It was the essence of this current sellout Hempstead board spirit of secrecy and keeping people excluded from board meetings and stuff. That happened right directly to us. Well, I'm not going to go into it deep right here, but in what I'm talking about, make it into the city. It's trying times, y'all. A lot of people panicking, worrying about mass shootings, gun violence. You got to train. Gun control starts at the top. Come on, elites. Come on, rulers, governors, politicians, bankers, all you privileged, wealthy people. Show us by example how nonviolence works. Prove to us how nonviolence works. You even have economic violence against poor people. You are so damn violent. How is that supposed to work? There's these mass shootings and stuff. Where you been? Caucasians invaded the Western Hemisphere are just rooted in violence, mayhem, murder. I said last time, like that insurance dude, I think it's the Allstate, something like that, the mayhem. He is a walking mayhem. He causes the mayhem. Then he insures the mayhem. Then he capitalizes off the mayhem. And he blended right in with your silly fears. You got all these fears, except to stand up against a brute in the source of violence. Those mass shootings. Most of that is overseen. Most of it. It just pulled over. I think it was about 20 or so, this white nationalist group, this white patriot, so-called patriot group. They were going to a gay pride. They were going to bus up a gay pride demonstration, and they charged them. Most of those members are deep state. Brother Tariq Nasheed posted on his Twitter this group of white boys in a U-Haul truck was headed to the demonstration, but most of that, and when you see the picture of them, they're trained. A lot of them are fit, young and fit. How could you be so young and fit like that? How could you be so young and fit? Most of them militias, them patriot groups and stuff, they always got beer belly Bob. Beer belly Bob is always present, dragging along, and he make up a good portion of them groups, and them so-called patriot groups and stuff. So where are they? Most of them young, fit, all masked. That's a telltale sign. The deep state oversees all of this violence. This is 7:06. I got 1 more minute before I come in. But that mass shooting started at the top. Gun control starts at the top. Prove to us. America, elites, these politicians, they never disarm their guards. They don't. Why? Because they feel they're important. They feel they're more important than you. They're called, they see themselves as, exclusive. They see themselves as privileged. And you got to fend for yourself. Well, Black America, we got to fend for ourselves. That's true about us. We got to fend for ourselves. Nothing is going to change. That deep state got their hand over everything. They snap these Manchurian candidates and these people that go, they press their buttons. They study them. They entrap them. They put them in control arenas, control circumstances, especially in these apartments. And all these new apartments, you shouldn't never move into an apartment. I regret ever being in an apartment. But after 600 Fulton, being in an apartment, you should never be in apartments. They're going to drop, they're in total control of that. And they snap people in there. And those snap people go around, they watch them and they get warned. You hear them, some of the times they get warnings, so-called red flags. And they do nothing about it. They let them go on because they capitalize off mayhem. He's the all-state mayhem guy. That's funny. All right, that's enough of that. Train yourself. You need to train in self-defense. Get a survival kit. Train in self-defense. Train in protecting yourself because no one is coming to help you. They're making a bigger poor class and a smaller wealthy class. And I'm going to go a little into that on what the aim is for this video because that's right in the title. Everything's right in the title. This is about good. Let me see. I don't think there's any questions yet. No. And the key part of that title was devitalization. Devitalization. You ever hear in the community they say that we're going to revitalize it? You know, the revitalization means that it went down. But in Hempstead, it has purposely, for 2 decades, we've been paying outsiders property taxes. It's very simple. You pay somebody else's taxes, they're going to get the burden is off them. Their burden is on you. You're not only paying your own taxes, you paying the taxes for the services for both of you. It is economically slanted. This is what has happened in Hempstead. 2 decades. In the lack of the village officials, it's been very crystal clear. They are not concerned about us. They're only concerned politically about our pain points, what we cry and protest about. If you protest, they look at who's the main crier, who's the pivotal person in a protest group that's crying about something. Then they come and they do a side deal with that person to shut you all up. That's what they do in Hempstead. For over 2 decades, we have been paying wealthy outsider apartment owners and some supermarket owners and some car dealerships, but it's been mainly apartment owners, and it didn't make any sense. It wasn't economically feasible. The whole purpose of those pilots, which is payment in lieu of taxes, tax breaks to these companies, they're not paying the taxes. The homeowners pay their taxes. The whole purpose of their tax breaks was to attract businesses into Hempstead and say, look, when you attract this business in, you know, we don't pay, like let's say we supposed to pay $100,000 a year in taxes, right? Well, if you don't, and it's more than that, most of them, it's hundreds of thousands. Okay, we don't pay any property taxes, we pay very little, well, we'll employ some of your people. We'll create employment, and we'll stimulate the economy. It's stimulus. It's to stimulate the economy, to grow, to vitalize the economy. This is not what it's been. These tax breaks have been weaponized to subsidize the profits of apartments owners. The most jobs, the most jobs in an apartment complex is what? Maybe 3 to 5 jobs, depending on the size of it. It's the manager, the front desk, maintenance, and security is contracted. Security is independent contractor. those salaries that you pay them, those are not enough for you to pay a mortgage on your house, let alone your property taxes. It's not enough. They're robbing us. They literally are economically raping this village. In an apartment, your salary is what, 30,000. If you're lucky, they start you at minimum wage. What is that, $8 an hour now? They start you there. And then you grow to those, then you go up in salary. Most of them salaries be like what, 40,000 a year, maybe 50. You lucky. And that salary does not let you buy a house, to build up the community so you can create generational wealth, to create community value so that you can start a family. This is why so many of us piling into one house, because we're being starved. We're being devitalized by paying someone else's taxes. And that economic stimulus is supposed to be not for apartment buildings that bring in more tenants, and these hundreds of tenants in each apartment don't pay property taxes, so they're not paying property taxes. You see where this is going? That you're subsidizing them. Their children go to public school in these apartments. You're paying for their education. The Hempstead school budget is like 200-something million. The state like subsidized half of it so they can control it, because they don't want conscious people coming on that board. There are no conscious people on that board with a voice. Brother Randy, conscious brother, but straddling the fence. Where's your voice, Randy? Where's your voice, Brother Randy? My good brother. I love you, brother. Love your family. Went to school with your mom, my sister Pam, good sister. Lamont comes into the village board meeting. He's on the school board. He comes and open his mouth to support this monstrosity, this injustice, racist injustice against us. He comes selling us out because he's a snake, and he has betrayed us. And all he promises is us his jobs. Y'all members on that school board, you must speak up against it, because it's targeting you. Now it's coming to you. Now y'all, you post a notice, oh, come to the village board meeting. This is a protest that segue me right here. This is where I wanted to speak to you about. Also, this segue me right here. This is a demonstration we had called Can the Plan Take Back Our Land? They're privatizing Hempstead. They're taking the land. Wayne Hall gave away 32 acres of village parking lots for nothing. That the developers, them rotten, slanky, outsider developers, Don Monte, Scott Reckner, and Russian oligarchs funding RXR, are selling to new developers. They just sold some to Commonplace. I think they sold it to Estella and Dell Bus Company for millions. They robbed us. This was the board meeting that Waylon Hobbs is discussing this plan of converting as a committee or something. He just testing the water, see if he get away with it. And it turned out a little bad. Waylon Hobbs. But Randy, Sister Patricia McNeely, and all of you, Joylette Williams, well, Lamont was there, drag his sorry behind in the meeting. Should have been at this board meeting. This is important. But Lamont and Joylette, both of you support the gentrification of Hempstead, because you supported these pilots for these apartments I'm talking about. These unproductive apartments. These unindustrious apartments. There's nothing that how you're investing in them. That's not an investment. Apartments, that's piling up. That's the highest carbon footprint you could have in urban civics. That's the zoning. That's the biggest carbon footprint you could have. That's the essence of city zoning. They don't produce anything. Those tenants, students go to school. We pay this. Property owners pay their tuition, pay their services, pay their sewers, pay public safety. One of the biggest parts of the Hempstead Village budget is public safety. Because, and why? Why they have more of a police presence? Because you've devitalized Hempstead for 20 years. Because none of you have had a voice to come out to these meetings and speak about this devitalization, this racist devitalization that is enabled by the IDA board and the Hempstead Village board, of which Waylon Hobbs have fixed that board. Earlene Hooper first established the board to protect Hempstead. And now it has been reversed, because now you got a sellout controlling the village board. So now he put his select members. That's Lamont Johnson, that's Joyla Williams, I forgot the other sister name that's on there, and Dan Oppenheimer. All of them betray this community for wealthy outsiders to make Hempstead, to gentrify Hempstead and make it into a city. You are the voice. Y'all should be speaking up. You can't be, I don't have no opinion. It affects you. Once Waylon Hobbs, if he gets that city status, he could take over the school board. And he put members on there. Just like he stacked that village hall meeting Tuesday. This was Tuesday. Just like he stacked the meeting in his favor with his supporters, and he blocked out all of us. It was over 20, maybe 20 to 30 people in the outside hallway of the courtroom. And he purposely came up with an excuse. Oh, you know, the seating, the CDC says there's only a limited seating, got to be spread out. Well, he could have opened the door and let people hear this, to hear his voice, why don't you want people, the residents and the public, to hear a civic meeting? Because you operate in secrecy and fear, and you hate transparency. It is your enemy. The school board, you should be the first ones there. He wants to do it to create control. That's it. Well, his handlers, his masters, the duopoly, the oligarch control duopoly. The Democrats and Republicans are controlled by the same oligarchs, the same plutocrats, and the same corporatists. They fund them all. They're just playing good cop, bad cop with us on a national scale, and they're taking turns on us. That energy they have, some people say the revolving door, it's like a seesaw. One jumps up, one jumps down. When the one is down, everybody cries, oh, it's their fault. Then the other one takes a turn. And it's the same voters in Hempstead. They keep voting these people in. The Republicans, you've lost ground because you dummies lost your home. Black Republicans in Hempstead were progressive. I was a black Republican. Back in 1990, I wasn't able to vote because Brother James Garner became mayor. He was the so-called first black mayor of Hempstead. Here we are, the original people. Y'all pride yourselves so much. Brother James Garner, in 1988, became the so-called first black mayor of Hempstead. Everybody's happy. He was Republican. That was the Black Republican Party in Hempstead. It was very influential. You were involved in the community, man. A lot of them actually cared, the Republican Party. The Black Republican Club, which was different from the racist. I mean, it don't get no worse than Peter King and Galata in them. It don't get no worse than them. Peter King, he hate black people. And just like Slick Tom Swazi, well, he's a blue MAGA. Tom Swazi is blue MAGA. And Joe Biden is blue MAGA. They despise black people. He the one that first announced this city plan, Tom Swazi, that's running for governor. He said, I want Hempstead to be a city town. And Wayne Hall was there. He said, I want to go from Garden City to Hempstead to Rockville Center. And Wayne Hall cheered it on. It was an awful decision. It was urbanization that didn't have any cultivation, development, industrial, small industrial jobs. Well, that was after. But James Garner was mayor in the late 80s, and I had come off the street. I was doing bad. From 79 to 87, I was on parole. I was on parole in 87, and I went to electronic school. I was turning my life around. I said, I got to change this. I got tired of jail. So in a nutshell, I went to to Amityville, the drafting school. Not Delahanty, that was the auto mechanic school in Hempstead in the 80s. I went to that to avoid jail. The judge said, "Payal, 9 months." He didn't go for it. But I attended, it closed down. But I went to, what is it, Island Drafting and Technical Institute, which was a good school. They taught us electronics. This is when computers were first coming out. They weren't that popular in the late 80s. And Island Drafting and Technical Institute. I went there with Brother Ijah. I forgot the other brother name. He was taking drafting, and I took electronics. I did good. I got all A's, and I had perfect attendance. I never had perfect attendance for anything. That's how much I like electronics. And so I come out of school. I was working at CoinMac, I think. No, I had a work release job rebuilding car engines at, we called it Wally World, Machine World, Amityville and Copay. It was nice in Amityville back then, in the 80s, the late 80s. So I used to get on Long Island Railroad, and I liked it. I loved going out there and stuff, to work and to school. You know, I was changing my life around, you know, becoming more industrious, studying that knowledge. Please, Farrakhan was on fire. New York was lit up with black consciousness. So I had that degree, and it was a certificate, which is more powerful than a degree. I regret going to private and public college for them degrees. Them certificates are way more potent and more of a tool, a better tool to use for yourself. And so I was working at CoinMac doing rebuilding washers and dryers. I was over there with Roosevelt, and from at 110, 130 Jerusalem, we was working there together, and a few other brothers. It's a lot of people I'm missing, but I'm trying to get through this. So I was at CoinMac doing appliance repair. I got into the field. I was driving the van, fixing washers and dryers and the laundromats that this company had in like many apartment complexes all over the tri-state area. It was one of the biggest ones, and it was a good company. Jeff Jan Sauceman, Dave, that manager Dave, I forgot his name, Dave Trupwalk, I believe it was. He was a real good manager. And Mitch was also a good, he was the vice president. They were very astute businessmen and knew how to handle people, especially Dave, knew how to handle people correctly. That was good management. Relating to people, having empathy for people, stop being all hardball. When you have empathy, relate to them. People will respect you, and people will work hard for respect and empathy and being important and being rewarded, recognized for it, more than money. You'd be surprised. So I'm fixing washers and dryers on the Upper East Side. I was on parole. I had just got off parole, I think. I couldn't vote. In the late 80s, if you had a felony, you couldn't vote. You couldn't register to vote. I tried because I would change my life around. I said, let me get involved in the community. And this Farrakhan that was for Jesse Jackson's presidential campaign. He had registered to vote. And so that inspired me. I said, well, because we were like, psh, politics, we call it politricks. We call Caucasian teachings in general, white supremacy, tricknology. Instead of technology, it's tricknology. And we call his politics, politricks. So I'm on the Upper East Side. I just got off parole. And for some reason, they let me register to vote in Nassau County. So I was in East Harlem, the Upper East Side of Harlem, at not Delahanty Village. That was 1199 Plaza. It was co-op, black co-op. We was on point up there in the late 80s. Yeah, that was the late 80s. No, that was the early 90s that I was there. In the late 80s, this was the early 90s. That's right. The very early 90s, I was doing the appliance repair. I had graduated that's right. In the late 80s, I had the paint. I was rebuilding the washers and dryers at the plant, at the headquarters in Roslyn by the clock tower, right up the street, Lumber Road, I think that was. And then I went out into the field, started fixing washers and dryers. I was trained how to literally build a laundry room, take an empty basement room, and they trained us so they wouldn't have to call all them other specialists into laundry rooms to do the work. That was more money, more time. They had to wait. So they trained us as the service technicians, fixing the washers and dryers, how to fix the electric, how to fix the plumbing, how to fix the venting, how to repair the tile, even concrete pads, laying we all typists. We learned everything. I said it was a good training company. I learned a lot. And I was at 1199 Plaza, and this sister, I said, let me take my chance. Let me take a shot. So I walked up to her. It was beautiful up there. We had all type events. The management there. Matter of fact, a brother I was working with at CoinMac, he later became the manager there at 1199 Plaza. And he didn't like it because the mob was controlling a lot of that. That 1199 Plaza, I was in the Teamsters doing the repair service, and the Teamsters didn't play. If you went around and to a Teamster, another Teamster union member's job that was striking, and you passed that strike, and you know what they call cross the strike line. Man, they would sabotage your work. If you was a service mechanic going into an apartment building or some building, and you crossed that strike line, they tagged you, partner. They wouldn't tag me. I didn't go. One of them supers called me and I said, no, I can't cross my brother's picket line like that. And they all applauded me. I got back in the van and left. Well, that was the early 90s on the Upper East Side. And this was East Harlem, right above Spanish Harlem. I was in Spanish Harlem, Central Harlem. Yeah, right. Spanish Harlem and Central Harlem and East Harlem, all the way up to Delano Village, down to like the 90s and stuff. And I liked the job, I liked it because it got around. And I would take my lunch break. I would go find Brother Leroy and Brother Henry, Brother Captain Dennis, the Muslim fish truck. That's Muslim. They had a mobile truck that had the bean soup and the fish sandwich and everything. And I would go search for them for lunch to go drive to them. And Brother Leroy, he would be like 125th Street. It was totally different. All the vendors was out there. I was out there vending too. It was beautiful up in Harlem. This is where my spirit come from, please. Every corner of Harlem back then. It was rough too. On them side streets, by Majestas, 129th Street, them side streets, it was pretty rough on some of them side streets, man. And I pray that our people get out of all those lowly conditions. It was sad seeing some of that, man. But we used to be there, man. And I was at 1199 Plaza in front of the turn. You make a U-turn, and the sister was out there registering people to vote. So I said, I might as well give it a shot. And then I said, well, I want to register to vote. So she gave me the form and said, you got to fill it out Democrat. I said, that's weird. I said, why would I have to? Why must I fill out Democrat? She said, well, you got to. She was like, you black, ain't you? I said, but I said, well, where I'm from, in my hometown, James, I was explaining to her. I said, well, James, that's my man, James Garner. We proud of him. And the black Republicans there, they was in the community. They was working for the outsiders, not so much optically. I didn't know exactly what was going on, but I have a sense that they did get involved. They did reach out to us. Brother James Garner, he came to the Million Man March and everything. So we was in a good spirit. And he supported all our events, all our Black Power events, all our protests. He supported it. Gave us access to parking lots and stuff like that and everything. So he was in good standing with us. Then behind the scenes, it was that duopoly working a different plan, this devitalization plan. So I said, sister, she was wrong. She said, sign up for Democrat. And so I signed up as a Republican in support for him. And that's how I got registered to vote. It slipped in because I did it in like Manhattan somewhere. Somehow, it was a glitch somehow. I registered to vote. That's when I started voting. And later on, like within a few couple of years, there was no other party. The Green Party wasn't prevailing. It was Mark Green, so I went to registered independent. But that's enough about my political motives. You should be a thinker, a free thinker. You should think things out. Don't be a zombie voter. I'm going to pull the trigger in the election booth, pull the handle, just because they're Democrats. They're the worst one. They're gentrifying Hempstead. At least Don Ryan opposed the pilots and tax breaks for them apartments. He never supported none of them apartments. Well, at least he did that. He didn't, and I had a problem with him. Well, I ran against them, all of them, because they weren't holistic. He He didn't never once denounce this gentrification plan or the devitalization. He recognized that Hempstead was, he said we don't have a robust economy, but he never identified why. You just can't say it's concentrated poverty. So at least Don Ryan did do that, and he supported Earlham Hooper's getting that Hempstead residents on an aspect, on the IDA board for Hempstead agenda. Things that concern the village of Hempstead. Anything that's happening in Hempstead, Hempstead would have representation because we were not represented. We were not represented by the IDA board. They were just giving out, no question asked. They was giving out tax breaks to wealthy apartment owners like candy because it was part of devitalizing us. They had to figure they didn't want to attract factories and small industry and services that'll give us higher income. They purposely gave all them tax breaks to ridiculous apartments. And I have to keep repeating this every time I say it because we don't address it. This should be at the top of our discussion. In Hempstead, why we are devitalized. And why outside planets got so much influence in our community. Why they push us around. Thousands have been displaced. Thousands have lost their homes. Right in Hempstead. Home ownership and settlement is the essence of generational wealth and community value. Cultivation is community value, keeping your heart on your people. For one, to protect what you have, like in Italian neighborhoods, in the Greek neighborhoods, right there in Elmhurst, where I used to go get suits. My sister's father, Tommy, with Jehovah at the Kingdom Hall, he used to sell suits. I used to get some of them suits. They were the manufacturer of them suits. That was Reverend Sun Moon people. That was in 2000, early 2000. I was selling suits. That was the first time I had a new suit. I was literally selling. I said, hey, and Brother Herbert Williams, my beautiful, beloved brother, essence of the core of the vanguard of our community in Hempstead, Brother Herbert Williams. He was a tailor. He tailored some of my suits back then. And he's a beautiful brother. I first met Brother Herbert Williams at Rochdale Village when Dr. Leonard Jeffries came, Dr. Dees came, and that's right, it was beautiful. That was Dr. Dees and Brother Leonard Jeffries. They came to the Rochdale Village Community Center, and that manager was some East Indian guy that was cold. He reminded me of Waylon Hobbs. He didn't care nothing about our community, man. These immigrants shouldn't even have governance over Native black people. Native black Americans, the millions of us that was here before Caucasians, and the millions they stole from so-called West Africa, that is West Asia, and brought over here in the hulls of slave ships. We are a special people. We are a particular people, a unique people, and no other immigrants should govern over us because they don't care. They don't have empathy for us. We the scapegoats in this country. We built the country, then they mock us and deny it. Hollywood was birthed mocking us, degrading us, dehumanizing us, and it still operates like that too. The residuals is there. It's recently they started taking those measures. White folks didn't change. We changed. We woke up from that spell and started changing things around. Slavery, they didn't do that voluntarily. Abraham Lincoln was forced to use slavery to stop Europe from recognizing the Confederacy. Did you know that? The Civil War, Abraham Lincoln supported slavery because he said black people are inferior. I think his mother was mulatto too. Abraham Lincoln's mother was mulatto. And them Southerners brought it up in them campaigns. They had him with an afro. He didn't care nothing about black people. He used black people. When it looked like the Confederacy was throwing blows, they had some great generals there. Robert E. Lee, he was a prefect of West Point. Great general. And Stonewall Jackson, great generals the Confederate had. and they were getting some victories, especially Lee, General Lee. So Abraham Lincoln didn't want Europe to recognize the Confederacy as states, as independent states. So he said, I'm no longer fighting for the Union, to keep the Union one, I'm fighting against the abolition of slavery. And I think when the southern states were succeeding, most of them used the excuse anyway. Said, we want to keep our slaves. They keep an advantage. They were wealthy as hell. Them southern states in the north couldn't compete with them. And it's the same thing today. Cheap labor in America. Cheap labor. Everyone vies. All these corporatists and the bigger corporations, they vie for cheap labor. Everybody wants to use somebody. Black people, we've been enslaved over here for hundreds of years. Native black people, we've been enslaved centuries over here. And when some of us come up into power, we have that Stockholm syndrome. And we take on what Frantz Fanon characterized as taking on the ways of your oppressor. You don't fight to get your oppressor off you, to stop the oppression. You turn around, instead of fighting him, you turn around on those weaker than you, and you bully them. That's the essence of a bully. And you exploit them. I've seen it in jail. They call it juggling. You get in jail, you have a little money, it's some guy with 10 boxes of pies, they call it the store. And they do this juggling. And they had all these goods, you got money, and they give you 2 boxes of apple pies, or a box of pretzels, and next week you got to give them 4. That's a payday loan, man. Come on, brother. We in jail. Tops and cigarettes, but this was the 80s. I don't know how it is. They don't let them smoke in jail today. This is the 80s. And a joint was $3, man, for a little Tootsie Roll stick-sized joint. We got high off it, too. And we take the talcum powder, put it on the jail bars, and blow it to mask it would be our incense. It would mask the smell of weed and stuff. So that, long story short, was about how being independent and what is wealth in the community. Others see our value. These oligarchs that control William Hobbs and literally, and it's sad the way they control him, man. He tried to act like he's doing stuff on his own. When in fact, he just, I prove it every time. Sometimes I just go ahead and prove it that he don't have no authority, and ask him a question about something that a thinker would have to answer. He couldn't even answer. Won't even lie, won't even get back, because his master didn't give it to him. And all of you got that master. And this is the problem in Hempstead with politicians and black America in general. You politicians, your aim is personal achievement. You want to be important, and you believe in an unjust, racist, unequal system of a few wealthy while the masses are poor, and a buffer middle class to keep everything in check. You believe that success is having a position. It's just any position. As evil as they do. The police are paid and trained to lie. The police, American police, are paid and trained to lie. And you believe you've made it just because it's a position. You don't even have to sell your souls today. You go fill out the application for it, and when you do, get your certificate, and everybody applauds. When you go rent out the expensive banquet halls outside of Hempstead to go celebrate your colonization, everybody applauds it. Well, most people applaud it because they want the position. You're colonized, you're enslaved. You don't serve our people and community. You serve outside interests who are determined to keep us a permanent underclass. All of you should have been to this board meeting. William Hobbs wouldn't have let you in anyway. He's a coward. A coward is somebody who will inflict force on others but won't do it himself. Remember Scarface? Tony Montana. He got Frank in this little car dealership. Frank was fronting his drug deals in cocaine behind his car dealership. And I think, and he tried to take out Tony Montana in that little club, but he ran his sister out of there. Well, she got out of there, and he was sitting in there and assassinated him. And Tony went to go see him at his car dealership. He thought he was dead, and he showed up. And he said, and then when he confronted him with the truth, the reality, I know you did it, he got on his knees and was begging, oh, please, Tony, please don't. He said, come on, Tony, I never did anything to you, man. He said, no, I know you never did anything to me. You had somebody else do it. That is a coward. That is a definition of a coward. Somebody who wants to inflict their will forcibly on someone else, but will not do it with their own hand. When confronted with the circumstance to use their hand, they flee. That is a coward. Y'all have betrayed this community. You have betrayed our people. And you should be taken and put in the garbage container and thrown out with the rest of the trash. There's no good in you towards our people and community. This is why outsiders come in and push us around and impose their plans on us. This is why. That sellout board and them sellout preachers in Hempstead, you're right on board with this. Waylon Hobbs is a politician and a preacher. A bishop, I believe. And all the black clergy in Hempstead are not standing up for Hempstead, not standing up for equity, not standing up for freedom, not standing up for justice, social justice, not standing up for generational wealth, not standing up for transparent civics. You're standing up towards secrecy, lack of transparency, and inequality, segregation. That city they're planning a city. And if they don't, that's just for them to get control of everything. As a city like Long Beach, and I believe that's, was that Glen Clove or Great Neck? I think it's Glen Clove, city of Glen Clove. That city is really no benefit to them unless it's prosperous. There's no reason in Hempstead. If Hempstead became a city right now, the economy is so dismal, it would be a failure. You wouldn't have the finance. You don't have the sales tax revenue. Most of this sales tax revenue goes to the town of Hempstead, and they sprinkle it back to Hempstead. Not even over $100,000, I think. It is ridiculous. Those cities been stabilized for the upper class is because they have an economy. You want it to be a city, not for current residents anyway. You want it to be a city so that you can get a control, you can further privatize land. You want to give away the land to these oligarchs, Russian oligarchs. You've already given away 32 acres. You want to give it all away to oligarchs. You want it privatized so that you can control everything. To displace us further, thousands of black people in Hempstead have been displaced over the last 2 decades. Thousands have lost their homes. All paying somebody else taxes, trusting these politicians. I didn't know either. I remember back in the early 90s, I didn't know. They sounded good, they looked good, the optics were there. And the auditory was there. But the policies weren't. The policies were wicked as hell. They were undercurrent, segregation, inequality. And when they get that city, they will get that height. They want the Hempstead High School land to put the water tower on there. Their plan will not work without that water tower. And I keep telling that school board, do not give away Hempstead land. You're going to be held accountable for it if you give that land away. They've already gotten away with so much. People waking up. People hear us. This is a small demonstration. There were more people across the street listening to us. And we went inside, we were blocked because Waylon Hobbs, you frightened. I don't know what it is, brother. We need to vet politicians, their mental makeup, man. What is your motives for wanting to represent our people and community, man? What are your motives? We need to vet these people. We need a powerful black platform for black America. The way we take these politicians, what is your motive? If you being paid, if you under contract, Jeffrey Daniels works for them developers. He worked for them something like $200-something an hour. They were paying him to come into Hempstead and to sell the idea that this is why Jeffrey Daniels used to just lie so much outright when he first started that misrepresentation. And I asked him if he had an NDA against them developers. He denied it. He was selling the idea, oh, it's only 20 acres and stuff. There's no apartments there. He was mocking us, calling it gentrification. Gentrification? Wait, there's nobody on these properties. It's 300. It has expanded to 300 acres now. Originally they had it at 279. They have the innovation zone, which Hofstra is bringing in to capitalize. Hofstra is coming in to occupy that innovation. They want to be the forefront for the medical school. And Malloy and Adelphi, they wanted to be a college town. How many black people work for Hofstra? How many black people from Hempstead work at Hofstra University? I know one brother over there that works over there. He's not from Hempstead. And if you are, put your name under my the few of you that work there with your high caliber salaries. Put your name under my comments so we can see who you are. That's what they're going to do in Hempstead. You aren't going to be welcome there. They said they wanted to make, Tom Swazi said this, and Wayne Hall, silly behind, was right there aping him. He said we want to make Hempstead a college town, a college city. He wanted to be a monolith, one seamless monolith city from Garden City to Hempstead to Rockville Center. Go on the map and look at Garden City, Hempstead to Rockville Center. Garden City is plush and green. Rockville Center by the golf course going through South Franklin is plush and green. That's what it's going to go through. That's going to be that throughway. It's plush. It gets plush and green. Go look on Google Maps when you get to Hempstead. It's a desert. It's bare. It's scorched because they scalped all the trees. That's one of the planning aspects of gentrification. Scalping the neighborhood. That's scalping the trees. It lowers the property values by increasing our property taxes because we don't have community value because we're not trained in school. And our churches are dismal. The church, I don't know, man. You should lose your tax status. If you are not vitalizing this community, you should lose your tax status. You should pay taxes because you're in the business of running our people out of town, devitalizing us. No cultivation, no history. You have historical amnesia. You're not proud of ourselves. You don't have no value. You're not protectors. We can't look to you for strength. We look for you to weakness. When they're crying, they come to you. All these murders and stuff, you'll come out. When a black man shoot at another black man and injures a black child, here everybody comes crying, oh, we must do something. Well, God damn it, where's the conflict resolution center you keep rejecting? You reject solutions. It requires funding cultivating us, and your enemies and your handlers and your masters oppose it and they tell you, don't go anywhere near that. Keep them going where they're going. Why? They've taken that money and they've invested it in Nassau County Jail, expanding that jail. They expanded the hell out of that jail. Since the 80s, I'm an alumni of that system. I know firsthand. I was in Nassau County Jail from like 81, something like that. I don't know. And then I don't even remember. Up to I was at Lincoln Hall, the youth home, all the way to jail and prison to 87. So that's 79 to 87, but I think the early 80s was jail, Nassau County. When I got there, I think the government, I think the federal government was suing, or the state, was suing Nassau County and threatening them a bill of $1 million a day for every inmate that they kept. What's that? Overpopulation. We had an overpopulation. I was sleeping on That was me and Nate was in jail, and that was the God Duma. He gave me the attribute wise mathematics. That was the early '80s. We were sleeping on the floor on mats. They had it. We couldn't even fit in the cell. The cells was full. They had us all over the place. That was me and Merv and over in the dorm. We didn't like that dorm. We used to get out of it. We had a job working in the kitchen. I'll talk about that later. I don't want to drag this on. Well, we were overcrowded. I remember that. And that judge threatened, it was $1 million a day for every inmate that was overcrowded, that the jail didn't have the capacity. We're going to fine you. They shipped us out. I went to Syracuse. I was in upstate. That was me and Pookie. I can't say the other names because ain't nobody else. I didn't talk to them about this. Brother La. It was a few brothers from, yeah, because we went from Nassau County Jail to Syracuse. The Syracuse County Jail. Syracuse is not a city, I don't believe. It may be, it's whatever it was. Their jail was in the middle of their city, Syracuse. It was cold, too. They had the gym up on the roof, and they didn't like us. But the food was better, and we was more comfortable there. And we called them country. They didn't, basically, the dudes from Syracuse to get on us about that, because they would point out to us, y'all got a little country in y'all, too. They shipped us to Syracuse. They shipped some brothers to New Mexico, jails in New Mexico. Why? What were they doing? They were trying to increase the budget. They were using that as an excuse. Look, we got to expand the jail. They invested all our money into expanding, to incarcerating us. And I was at Camp Summit. That was a slave camp. All that labor was slave. All that. You a barber. I did a little barber. If you were at the cleaning up, if you had some sort of job, it was pennies a day back in the early 80s. Pennies a day. The commissary was cheap. I think them cigarettes was like $2 a pack, something like that. Stuff was cheap, but it wasn't that cheap. Paying somebody pennies, they were psychologically playing with us, gaming us to make us want to do this labor, just to not want to stay in the cell. So they took that money and they invested in the prison system, which had been privatized also by the same damn oligarchs. They invested in keeping us slaves, from chain gangs to gangs in chains. They invested all that money into the jails, and they take it out of the community. When you don't have culture centers, when you don't have, that's the essence, cultivation. Cultivation is to train someone how to start a family, how to be a man, how to be a woman, manhood training, womanhood training, community value. Don't do the flight. Don't do a brain drain. Don't do an exodus. Some of y'all escape artists. As soon as you get a little money, you out the community. Then you brag about, I've got to get out of here, Hempstead. It's this conflict. But we never address the source of conflict. Them brothers have a beef. I showed that the last Alive. How them street beefs come into jail and how jail beefs go into the street. That's for real. We have to address the conflict. That's the essence. They love conflict. They foment conflict. They're behind the scenes. They're masters of divide and conquer. Why? Because you don't teach your babies. You let them teach you. How a man treats you is how he would teach you. And they've been miseducating us for centuries. Let me go into some questions, because it really wasn't. Oh, here they go. See, these questions get a little, that's Saladin Amal Muhammad. Teacher, brother. Assalamu alaikum. Peace unto you. That's right. We the teachers, brother. Sister Liz. Assalamu alaikum, my sister. Liz. Talk about it. Sad. That's right. Sellouts. Yeah, wow. Yep, they sellouts. We have a saying that these politicians are selected before they are elected. They are sellouts. They select these politicians before they bring them out. They have plans for them well before they put them in office. They were planning the city urbanization of Hempstead since the 80s. Excuse me. They planned urbanization. They tried to build office buildings on North Franklin in the 80s. Them two Caucasian brothers that own Winthrop Terrace, Window Terrace. They tried, and they made money off of them taking it over when they took it over. So they were expanding, building office buildings. It was blocked. Back in the 80s, they were planning this. And who are these planners? They want your land. They want, and Waylon Hobbs would give them every inch of it, every square inch. He would give it to them and let them steal it. They're not gatekeepers. They're cowards. They leave the gate open because they're weak and they cow and they bow. And they look strong to us and bold to us. That is a coward. You're strong on your own kind, but weak, you fold and you shrink to your enemy and oppressor. And when challenged, you prove that you shrink when strength and power is confronted to you. We speak truth to power, and we stand on our square because we got the knowledge, we got the right knowledge. We exercise it, and we sacrifice for our people. This is the spirit we need, black family. We need the spirit of sacrifice. We got the spirit of comfort too much. We're too comfortable with nothing. They set us up. They're damn sellouts. We can only rely on each other. And this city plan, it will right now, if Hempstead became a city, it would fail. It wouldn't benefit us the least. It would just give control for them to throw us out and just control everything. He's planning for others. They have an entire, go look at that live I did about Carmen Place. I showed you the map, that footprint, that 300 square, that 300-acre footprint. A big part of that near the high school in that industrial zone by McDonald's, down Peninsula, where the Hess gas station used to be. I don't think it's Hess anymore though. Right over there, where Billy Barbershop used to be, that whole area going down towards the high school, and the laundry place back there, I forgot the name of the laundry place. It's a whole industrial park back there. They want it all converted to an innovation zone for like coding and medical training and stuff. That ain't us. You ain't in the hospital now. What the hell make you think they're gonna hire you then? When they plan that seamless monolith, they going from Garden City to Hempstead to Rockville Center. They wanted one monolith, one seamless monolith college city for upper scale, wealthy yuppies. That's young, upward mobile people who don't care about the people underneath them. These are pretentious, arrogant people. They practice escapism. They don't have no foundation. They got their wealth and they want you too. They want you nomadic. They want us off balance, unsettled. And once their aim is not for Garden City and Rockville Center to resemble Hempstead, they want Hempstead to resemble Rockville Center and Garden City. And how would it resemble them? Because we won't be here. Most black people won't be here. It's a select few that they planning on having remaining. Waylon Hobbs and his friends. A few select sellouts. They will remain. You won't be able to drive in downtown Hempstead. You won't. It's a bike path. They're gonna have a bike path for your electric scooters, your little bike, and these yuppies and their little doggies. They're gonna have a doggy park. They have planned for a community center that they claim but it will be privately owned, but they claim publicly controlled. That's, did I say that right? It will be privately owned, but they want it publicly controlled. That community center will not be for you. Why won't we build a community center now? Why don't we build these enrichment centers now? These restoration centers, these cultural development centers. This is the essence of what we need. We need a foundation. Black people in Hempstead, we need militancy training. We need to learn to become more militant. We need self-defense. We need martial arts training. We need community value. We need nationalism. The way you think of our people first. Our people first, then others. You see they done, what you call that? I'll say integrated our status as a minority. Don't you know that Chinese business people from China, wealthy Chinese oligarchs, are labeled as a minority and get minority grants and loans? Wealthy oligarch Chinese who buying up America left and right are classified as minorities in this country and get minority status. Y'all are silly to embrace such a designation. You embrace anything. Most black Americans, they can sell us anything. They sell us a dream, and we buy the dream, thinking it will get us closer to white folks by that this transparent and magic, like the glass. You know how they call you at your job and they block your advancement, but they don't do it overtly. They do it subtly, and they call it a glass ceiling. Well, this city they building is going to be a glass, transparent, translucent segregation, racist segregationist economy and city. It is going to be a city. You will visit it the same way you do Garden City. You will not be welcome there. Do you know they still have racist clauses in the leases in some of these Long Island areas, Levittown? Them things last, if they ain't selling, white folks who generate, they pass down their generational wealth. Well, look one of these. Got a clause in there. Don't sell to no Negroes. Some of them say Jews, but some of y'all who own them are Jews. But unite against us. That was Robert Moses and the founder of Levittown. Racist. Same plan as Robert Moses was a big planner. Racist as hell. He didn't act. Well, back then he could say he didn't like us. A little to the side, but he was such in a prominent position. But behind the scenes, they talk about building an exclusive city that don't include common black people in Hempstead. That is their mindset. And you accept it as a way of life just because it's government, just because it's law. You just embrace it. That is a colonized mind that can't think for yourself. You don't have critical thinking. It's fear. You are frightened. You are frightened. Your job scared. And this pandemic just hit us. The pandemic just hit us low. We knew it was going to be bad, but it gets worse for us. When white America gets a cold, black America gets pneumonia. We get hit harder every time. It's the same. We are the last high in the first fight. We don't say that for nothing. And this is what they want. Why we must stop that. Stop this. Excuse me. On to some more comments here. Yeah, walaikum salam, sister. My sister Bernice Cannon. Hello, my sister. Peace and grace to you. Glad you can join in. That's right. Stay in communication, sister. We got to team up. And to change things, we got to team up. That's what this is. This is the coalition of concerned citizens of Hempstead. We held this chant outside of Village Hall Tuesday, where Waylon Hobbs was discussing studying for a charter to make Hempstead a city, which is not his idea, it's his handler's idea. And it's further to take more control for his masters who despise us. We can only overcome this with a coalition. Join the coalition of concerned citizens of Hempstead. And we have a robust plan to make Hempstead a vibrant, a black mecca of culture. Is that good enough for you? A black Mecca culture. Let's bring in our greats. We can do it. You gotta rise above emotion and into the thinking of God. That's the essence, spirit of all of us. We gotta look through each other's eyes more. We gotta embrace each other more. We gotta get rid of these gripes. Stop letting the enemy come in between us with that divide and conquer. He oversees all of this. He's a troublemaker by nature, a conqueror and divider. You go in a room with a whole bunch of different people from different races and stuff, see who come in there starting trouble and asking and challenging people. Be some Karen or some Ken. With the call, we can call on our greats to make Hempstead a black Mecca with a convention center. Let's build a convention center. Let's get our investors. Build a hotel next to it, a world-class hotel, high-quality things. Build them nice, right there, 100 Main Street. Start right there in the center of the black Mecca of trade. Let's bring in our skill, our talent. Don't you know, last time I mentioned this, I said we could bring in our brother Tariq Nasheed, who's building the Black American Museum. He's planning it in the West Coast, Los Angeles. And they work behind the scenes to undermine him, to block him. They're gentrifying that area also. You got to be careful where you planting things. You got to find out what's going on these local boards, because they're sellouts, and they're sellers, and their whole aim, they're diabolical. They work behind the scenes. They let us do things that look all good, all the bells and whistles of everything, and in 10 years, your property taxes will get jacked up and double. And you won't know why, because you're paying somebody else's property taxes. Let's come on to Hempstead. Let's focus on making Hempstead a black Mecca. Brother Tariq Nasheed. Let's get that Black American Museum, foundational Black American Museum in Hempstead. That brother raised over $1 million to make that happen. All praise is due to Allah. Our brother Umar Johnson, brother Dr. Umar Johnson, our good brother. He came to Hempstead. If I'd have ran for mayor and won, I would give him a building to build a school. Oh, this is what we need. This is what we need to do with our resources and our energy. This is the energy we need. You don't have the damn energy, man. You're so passive in receiving instead of being aggressive and getting in the grind and doing for our people. That brother, Dr. Umar Johnson, build that Marcus Garvey and Frederick Douglass School in Hempstead. We can build a cultural center, a vendor's market. We can build a fine state-of-the-art cultural center and gallery. I was the last live I did. My good brother, Jamel Shabazz, he is in Brother Ernie, I forgot how to pronounce Brother Ernie last name. Brother Ernie. Go Google legendary hip-hop artist and photographer. That's Brother Jamel Shabazz. He got all them pictures from back. He's a world-renowned, legendary photographer, artist and photographer, in galleries all around the world. We could bring that brother into a gallery. Him and Brother Ernie. There's a few other brothers, graffiti artists and stuff like that. That would be profound. Into a fine state-of-the-art gallery. And let that open the door for other events and start developing cultures off that. Let's get our own art. Get our own dances. Come up with unique things. Make, play, do things like that. We got to train. But we got to have the vision. Let's get our own credit union. For village employees, teachers, and resident business owners to finance this stuff. We'll be financing it with our own money. Let's bond our own things. Don't you know municipal bonds in Hempstead? None of you have seen a municipal bond in Hempstead. Why? Because it's outsiders who own and sell these bonds. Go look up bonds, municipal bonds, and see who you got to buy them from. In Hempstead, we should own these bonds. We should be financing the bonds. We should have them specifically towards service and investments and endeavors in the village, where in our utilities and everything. Will we be the investors, and then we make money, and then when the bonds mature, we get our money back. Not only are you making money, or if you paying your own light bill, you supporting your own services, your own industries that you bonded, but we bond. Stop letting them bundle up them bonds and them 5,000 packages. We can do this. And we can enable it through a digital currency, specifically for us. A blockchain specifically for our economy, to grow it and give incentive to invest in the community, instead of these blood-sucking outsiders that are raping this village economically. Well over 20 million a year. That's 20 million a year that you just letting others take from you, from this sellout misleadership. We have to take that money. It can't take a village until we take the village. You got to start growing families again, to have community value, strengthened by family. You strengthen the man, you strengthen the woman, you strengthen the family, the home, the block, the neighborhood, and then the community in Hempstead. We can bring about a convention center, call on all our black organizations that have all these conventions. Oh, y'all spend thousands on these these fancy ballrooms, celebrating nothing. What are you celebrating? You're conquered. You're celebrating your colonized status. You want all these parades. What are you celebrating? You have failed. You're conquered. You're colonized. So you're ashamed. And that pain, you don't want to admit that. You don't talk about that. You don't talk about this. You chime into me, but this ain't the center of discussion. Some of us have it. Some of us conscious health, especially in Hempstead. We view the survivors. A lot of us gone. But the survivors in Hempstead who are conscious, man, a lot of us gone. Because we trusted a system that's not worthy of our trust. We should never pledge allegiance to that which haven't proven is worthy of our allegiance. We're like zombies. That's how we vote. Blue no matter who, all the way. And they taking us to, that's why I'm supporting my brother Marcel for Congress in South Carolina. Get James Clyburn out of there. That old broken slave. He's an old broken slave. All of them are. They just left the gate open for us. The only issues they discussed, which people got to a boiling point and would start protesting against. Then they would come up, oh, I'm against that, oh, I'm for it. It was political. They don't have no principles. They ain't got no heart. They ain't got no God. They have no conscience. They have no vision. And where there is no vision, the people perish. You are perished people with a colonized mind. Wake up, Black America. We too comfortable with nothing. Black America. It's sad how we can be tricked, deceived, and then told we've been tricked and deceived. Mark Twain said that. Said it's easier to fool someone than to convince them that they have been fooled. Why? Because we trust these politicians and preachers that come to us. Mainly, all of us don't. I'm just speaking to those that don't. Those that don't, you keep voting them in. These sellouts. And they come smiling in your face, and they got the right platitudes. Politicians are magicians playing us. And we got to get them out. Come join this coalition if you're in Hempstead. The Coalition of Concerned Citizens. And all you snakes, you traitors, you sellouts, you agents, you're not welcome. We find you in our midst, we banish you, get you out of exile. That's what we need to do anyway with these sellout boards. You're all turning on yourself, and you're your own trap. All of you, you're your own trap and your own undoing. And when enough people wake up, they're going to throw your ass into the garbage dumpster, but to take you out with the rest of the trash. And Farrakhan said that years ago. He said, these sellout politicians, we're going to take them and throw them in the back of garbage trucks, drive them down the street, and the people are going to throw trash at them. You can't drive them down Black Matters Black Lives Matter's way in Hempstead Main Street because they done covered up the writing. It shouldn't have been there anyway. Black Lives Matter is weak. Reparations now. And we got to do it by force. Nothing is going to change until we force them to change. You see how Waylon Hobbs reacted? That was Tuesday. This was before the meeting. It was windy out there too. That's why you can't hear it. And if you can see our suits flapping in the wind, it was a vicious wind. I even deleted that pre-content because my suit was all flapping and everything. You couldn't hear us, but you could faintly hear some of the footage. That board meeting was overflow, and he knew it was going to be an overflow. We sent him notification. They had all these police present, mainly white police. Why all these white police in Hempstead, man? Y'all have no damn balls. You don't have no code. You don't have no courage. They don't live in Hempstead. All these white police and these white teachers. You unworthy of governorship. You know, Allah will do this. Allah will remove y'all from there and punish you for your own weakness. It's hard to defend and champion a people who won't stand up for themselves and champion ourselves until it affects you personally. That's the sad part. Too many of us in Hempstead are individualistic and selfish. It's a bad trait we have that we're proud of. Nobody tell me nothing. Get on out here, girl, and move out of town. That's your first move. That's your first move. You get resource. And you come up with an excuse, the conflict. Oh, the brothers fighting. But you won't support a conflict resolution center for them to sit down. You won't support cultivating them, training, start our own businesses. You got to start in the school. You got to boycott the schools. We got to boycott paying property taxes. We have to force them. And we got to do it by the thousands because they will retaliate. Individualistically, it's like 12 people, they would do you in because Waylon Hobbs a coward. He'd love to use the police to do something that he won't do himself. And it's these white-ass damn police they got in Hempstead now. And you just all sit here acting like this okay. And once used to be an all-black town. Mainly. Hempstead was mainly black in the 70s. Absolutely in the end of the 60s and 70s. Then they brought in immigrants. This was no accident. So-called Spanish-speaking immigrants, they purposely brought them in to compete for jobs and stuff like that. For them doing labor. And many of them have sprung up and been economically successful because they are more they're immigrants. That's the way immigrants are. They take any labor. They take anything. They're so happy to be somewhere new that looks a little better than the condition they're in. And that's done on purpose. Because you don't appreciate and you don't have community value yourself. That's why they don't send them to Italian neighborhoods. That's why they don't go in the Greek neighborhoods. That's why they don't go in the Jewish neighborhoods. That's why they don't go in the Asian neighborhoods. But they send them all into black neighborhoods because we're so naive and we trust our so-called leaders and preachers. Preachers ought to be ashamed of themselves. Y'all are a disgrace. Some of you still got white Jesus on the wall, so that explains it all. You got him in your head too, because you got a colonized mind. It's time for freedom, justice, and equality. Let me see if there's any more questions. I saw a few comments. Our community. Okay, my sister Bernice, our community is very blessed to have you. All praise is due to Allah. And we need more of me. And I know they challenge those of us who speak and they work behind the scenes to work on individuals. But when we team up, we'll be a brick wall. We'll be a solid wall that's formidable. And we got to be strong and forceful and exacting our will. Because our enemy and oppressor will is being done in Hempstead. All right, family, if there's no questions, that's all I had to say about that city. We oppose it. We want to be a successful suburb. Let's call in all of our talent around Black America and Native Indigenous people. And, yeah, okay. Yeah, it was a nice Sunday, too. I'm glad. We're still here, family. People tell me that all the time. I grew up in Hempstead. We're still here, striving, and we got to build it strong. Cultivation. And we got to want to protect what we build. Cultivate our youth, cultivate families, start creating a legacy, and start creating self-businesses and a militia to back it up. We always get everything taken from us because we don't have the will to fight to protect it. This is why we come out here, all this protesting and marching and stuff like that. No, a militia to stand up. We need a TCB, we TCB. And young brothers, you can't cry in the car. You got to train them. Manhood training. Train you fast and get you on track. Join the Nation of Islam. Come out to Muhammad Mosque number 7 in Harlem. Join the Black Panthers. Join the Coalition of Concerned Citizens. Get civically and socially involved. We can make a change. We can do better. We start looking out for each other. Nothing can stop us except our own weakness and fear. And what overcomes that? Faith, strength, and love. You got to love yourself, love your mission. You are not your condition. We can overcome it all if we seek deeper into each other and not judgmental about each other, not suspicion. Because Allah got angels around us that can see all that anyway. Nothing to get past us. Because love is the gauge. Love is the indicator. Love is that dial, the indicator dial that says, is this person a threat, hate, or is it love and embrace and protector and a guide? We can tell through the tone. We'll get there, brothers and sisters. I'm glad you tuned in for me. And our next, come to the next village board meeting, the 21st. Yeah, I believe it's the 21st. Please come, because they excluded us. Everybody that didn't fit in that village hall, he cut them off and didn't let anyone hear what was going on. So we have to make our voices representative. And that is not representative democracy, that you have a village board civic meeting and the public and residents cannot hear clearly what's being done and cannot interact. That is fear. That is secrecy. That's lack of transparency. And that's corruption. We need to change that around. Come on out, family. July 21st, be at the board meeting and demand that everything be heard. Demand that the door be left open. You put a monitor out there and you put a mic outside. Make accommodations for the people which you fear. But we love Allah. We love ourselves. We love our mission. We love our destiny. And we creating a legacy and heritage of freedom, social justice, and equity. All right, family, I leave you as I greeted you in ancient Arabic words of peace. As-salamu alaykum. Peace.